If you wake up in September, cold to the bone, and your fire's just an ember, down to the river we'll go. Where the spirit knows, where love can grow, where the energy flows, down to the river we'll go. If you find your fears undying, and you dream of yesterday, and your troubles aren't residing, down to the river we'll go. Where the spirit knows, where love can grow, where the energy flows, down to the river we'll go. And I will love you. I will feel your pain, and I will hold you too. Where the spirit knows, where love can grow, where the energy flows down. And I will love you. I will feel your pain, and I will hold you too. Where the spirit knows, where love can grow, where the energy flows, down to the river we'll go.
Do not fear, Saf is here. And how you doing, guys? I'm Saf Buxy from Saf Surgery in total collaboration. Let me tell you, we're spiritually gone wild and baby, Love Academy, baby. Saf Surgery supports his charity, a men's mental health charity, and Aspire to Be recovery community, which is dedicated to addiction and recovery as a whole. And I am your host tonight of Inspirational People, inspirational stories. And the aim of this show is to interview inspiring people who have either been successful in their field or who have inspired others in some form. And today's guest, where do I start? I met this guest before. I've had the pleasure of interviewing this guest on my radio show, but it's Rosemary Lloyd. You know, from a life of abandonment and struggle, Rosemary is a multi-award winning model and beauty queen, winning various titles. Rosemary is an actress. She's an entrepreneur. She's an ambassador for the Disabled International Foundation of Sierra Leone. She is Miss Universe Great Britain 2020 finalist, and Rosemary helps turn survivors into leaders. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Rosemary Lloyd. Where you at, girl? Hey,
Hello.
how you doing,
Hi.
Rosemary?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh
How are you
God,
today?
oh it's so I love the headgear
Oh,
going on.
you
What is
got
that?
these
Tiara?
fluffy headbands? Yes, I
Oh,
thought just something a little bit jazzy as we're doing this amazing show. So,
oh, God. Well, thank you for coming on the
oh,
show.
thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean,
Pleasure.
I don't know when was the last time we spoke. There's a slight noise in the background. I don't know if can you hear that, or is it okay on your
Yes, I
side?
can hear that.
Yeah, I wonder what that is. I don't know. But anyway, it's one of those things. Let me just. Is that better? Is that gone? No, it's still there. It
Still,
sounds like someone's typing, doesn't it? But anyway, the show must
uh,
go on, and
hands free.
yeah, mine too as well. But look, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here. Last time, I had the pleasure of having you as a guest was on my radio show, as I mentioned earlier, and your story really touched me. Um, not only from where you've been, but where you are today, and you truly are an inspiration to me and to many people out there. And I feel blessed in a way that our paths have crossed. So what I'd like to ask you is, obviously, it hasn't all been gravy. Um, but where would you like to start? Let's tell me a bit about yourself.
Well, I've been born and raised in London my whole life.
Yeah.
I'm a psychology and neuroscience degree graduate. I'm a very
Wow.
family orientated girl. I'm very, my greatest inspiration is my grandma. She's a survivor in World War II, and I got a lot of my strength from her. I grew up in a one-parent family near Primrose Hill, and I moved down to North London and then moved back up west. I've also got one sister.
Hmm.
I love, I'm a very creative person, very artistic, love astronomy, the sciences. That's why I completed a degree in neuroscience. And I'm doing a top up at Harvard at the moment with Professor
Wow.
Hicks' program. I'm also Miss Universe Great Britain 2020 finalist. I've been doing beauty pageants since the age of 15 and won numerous titles and represented the United Kingdom about 7 times now. I've
Jeez.
also I've also been a model since the age of 10 for 17 years now, and I've been featured in such as Vogue, Tatler, and many other front cover magazines. I've been very blessed to have such an amazing career. My advocacy is helping turn women survivors into leaders because I want to break the stigma for those women who've been in foster care that they are an integrated member of society. They are included in the world. They are. There is this horrible stigma that women in foster care are not able to carry on with their lives, or they end up on the street. And I want to break that stigma and say you can go on to have happy, normal, successful lives. So that's why I'm here today, to be proof of that and to show that you can, no matter what you've gone through, no hardships, you can have a normal, successful life.
And you're so very right. I remember our first meeting. We spoke about, because it hasn't all been. You've worked hard to get to where you are today, and from the background, I mean, I know you sometimes find it uncomfortable to talk about the past, but whatever whatever you're comfortable with is fine. But remember, whatever you say, I'm hoping that it will give a message of hope to someone out there that you know what, they can make it. If you got dreams, you can fulfill these dreams, regardless of what kind of history or journey you've had. There is a way out, and you are living proof of that, Rosemary. So start from the beginning, if you like, a bit of a struggle that you had, and a few little incidences that you may want to talk about, please.
Well, even before the show, I was very anxious to talk about it because it's not easy talking about it at all. But I
Mm.
have to have the courage somehow. So I have my like little mini anxiety moment, and I'm like, okay, no, get out of it. You got to go for it because you got to go towards things that scare you the most. You know, being on stage, I'm always get frightened, and being on stage, being on talking to people. I've always been quite a nervous person and quite shy, so I had to come out my comfort zone and overcome these. But going back to what I've been through as a child, I lost my mother very young.
Yeah.
She's still alive, but she went off with another person. I don't blame her. We managed to reconnect after 25 years. since the lockdown we managed to connect. So I've been very, very blessed to get back in touch with my mother. I've also I lost my mother, and I went straight into foster care because my father was too ill to look after us, and there wasn't anyone else who could look after us because our families just were too far away or they were working. So they thought the most appropriate place to put us in would be a foster care through social services. Unfortunately, that was against my will because I was a child and I did not have a say where to go. And yeah, it's very difficult because when you go through something like that, it's horrific. So I remember my father being pushed away from me from the social worker, and I was clenching with my pale, skinny arms, like, don't go, don't go. And I wait every single day at the bottom of the step, looking at the door, hoping he would come back today. I did not know when my father was going to return. I did not know if I would ever have my mother. I did not know anything. I was just left there with my sister. And the carers I had, the first ones I had, were very cruel. And, they would just kind of do things to us that like hit us and stuff. And it was just a horrible, horrible experience to go through. The second carers, however, when I went back into foster care, because I was in foster care on and off, they were very kind and they were very sweet. But the first ones, we had such a traumatic time.
Wow. And how old were you at that time of the first?
So this started around 4 or 5 years old. So around 4, I started to, my father became very unwell to look after us. We didn't really have anywhere to go. My grandma was very old as well, and she could only do so much. So we were placed into foster care on and off basis. So every time my father would have a breakdown or he was just too unwell to look after us, we would go straight into foster care backwards and forwards. And it was just agonizing to just be reintroduced to the idea that, yes, you have to go back into foster care after coming out. But
I mean,
I went in there.
you're 5 years old, Rosemary. How can you remember how you felt going, like, oh, you have to go back again? I mean, how did that feel? Can you remember the moment when you had to go back and what was going through your mind at the time?
It's a very, very intense feeling. It's the one of the most difficult. It's like a gut-wrenching feeling, like your heart sinks, your heart is pounding, your stomach is sinking. You just feel like, do I belong anywhere? You just don't feel like you belong. There's such inconsistency and instability in your first early years of your life. And unfortunately, you take that abandonment with you into the adulthood if you don't get the correct therapy, if you don't get the correct help. And unfortunately, when I went back with my father, there was no aftercare. It was in the 1990s, and so things are a little bit more still. They're not as advanced as they are today when it comes to mental health and those sorts of things. But there was no aftercare for us. There was no we didn't get offered anything. And when I reached out to the social worker and said that we were being hit, they just palmed it off and it just didn't say anything. And I was just shoved back to my father and just told to carry on as normal. I wasn't told that, that it's not normal to go through things. I thought this was normal because that's what you think as a young girl. And then you get older and you realize, oh no, I've actually had quite a dysfunctional few early years. My first 5 years of my life has been quite chaotic.
And did you ever disclose or confide to your father what had gone on when you were at foster care?
Yes, but years later, because I was terrified to bring it up because they made me feel like if I say anything, they'll come back after me. They'll get me. So I kept it a secret for a really long time. And then one day I was just, the whole world felt like it was collapsed when I was 14. And I started developing an eating disorder because I didn't have time to grieve about losing my mother, growing up without my mother. I didn't have a chance to adapt back to normalcy after going back with my father. So I took it out on my eating because I didn't have any sense of control. So my control was restricting my food, and I developed an eating disorder from that. And at 14, father was trying to get me to eat, and I had a huge argument with him. I said, I don't want to eat. And he goes, no. So he was like, no, you have to eat. You look really skinny. And he knew something was up. And then I just burst into tears. And then he admitted me into hospital. I was in hospital against my will. I didn't want to stay in hospital. Tube fed, 5.5 stone.
Wow.
And they said, and then I had a therapist for the first time. They said, what's happening? What's going on? And I just broke down in tears and I just told them everything. And this was years and years and years, for so long. For 11 years, I was keeping this in. Like, what happened to me? I didn't tell a soul because I was terrified that no one would believe me. And still, I'm still scared to tell certain people, because sometimes people, they don't believe you. They blame the person who's gone through things. And I don't want to be called a victim, but I don't want to be called a victim, but I have gone through things, and I feel like if I talk to certain people, they still don't believe me. And I think that's what a lot of survivors do feel like. I would never call myself a victim. I always call myself a survivor, definitely, because it's so much more positive.
And it's so wonderful to hear that, because children who are going through or have gone through what you've gone through can really go the other way. What would you say to someone who's been through what you've been through in terms of the abuse in foster care, who can't seem to move on, or can't seem to get through the pain that they may have caused today? What would you say to someone like that?
I would say to somebody, if you are using external factors to validate what happened, as in a sense that you're turning to, whether that's an eating disorder or drink or alcohol or anything that's bad for you, if you're turning to those things, immediately stop. Don't use external factors to try and condition yourself into believing you're all right, because you're not all right, and it's okay not to be okay. And this is where you really need to get to the root cause of the problem. I would suggest speaking to your doctor. Speaking, it's 100% confidential. Speaking to Samaritans, 116 123 is a free phone that's 24 hours. Also, Ladies of All Nations organisation, which I'm a chairperson for, which I mentor some of the women who've been abused. Do reach out to us as well. Just type in Ladies of All Nations organisation on Facebook, the number's there, and we have our crisis team, so you can reach out to us. There is, but never feel like you have to do this on your own. Even when I'm still down, I get days where I'm still down, and I call up a friend and say, today's not a good day. And always be really 100% honest, whether it's the workplace or so. I just say, look, I'm feeling a lot of anxiety today. I can't do it. Maybe I can reschedule. And it's okay to do that, because you've got to understand, you're not been in the same, even though we've all been in a race of life. When someone's been having a normal pace of a horse racing, you've been the turtle, you've had to take baby steps just to cope with these things. And it's okay. It's going to take you a little longer to get to the destination. So definitely seek help, and don't be afraid to say you're not all right. It's okay to say you're not all right. We're conditioned to always be told we're all right, especially social media.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm privileged to be part of Loney only recently, so we haven't had a chance to actually work together through that. But Dr. Caroline Makaka, such a wonderful lady who I met a few months ago now, and I've already done a couple of things. We've done a couple of really interesting things with her, or through her, and again, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to share another message, and as many messages of hope that I can. So,
Yeah.
just going back to 14, 15, you said that you were suffering from eating disorders. Was that anorexia or bulimia or a bit of both, or without
It
going
started.
into too deep? Yeah,
Oh no, it's okay.
yeah,
We can talk about it.
yeah.
So it first started as being anorexia. First, it was just like, I don't know, it came on so gradually, like I wouldn't notice that I had a problem, and I was really in denial. I didn't admit it. So when I come back home, my father would be like, have you eaten? And here's some dinner. I said, oh no, I've already eaten. Or if I was told to eat at a friend's house, I would hide food in my hair, or underneath my clothes or in my handbag. I was so desperate to not eat the food, I would just try and hide it as much as I can. And this is not because we're being dishonest, it's because we're just so ashamed of our bodies, we're so ashamed of ourselves, we've got zero self-esteem, and we have so much shame. We feel so guilty, the fact that we feel so guilty that we are not good enough, that we're not good enough for people. We blame ourselves, and it's sad, really. But it came on very gradual. At first, I started skipping breakfast. And also, I was a model back then, when it was all the whole size zero craze back in the early 2000s. It was all about size zero. And I was a model, as a child model.
Rosemary, it was like that in the 80s.
Oh, right.
Size
Okay.
zero. I
Yes.
remember growing up in the 80s, and we were the supermodels like Naomi Campbell and Linda
Mm,
Evangelista, who was my personal favorite, and
yes,
even Kate Moss was just coming onto the scene, and Cindy
that's
Crawford and
right.
Claudia Schiffer. It was all size zero then. It really was. So it's been going on for, God knows, 30, 40 years,
Forever.
even long, yeah.
Exactly. When I was modeling, it was the same time as Kate Moss, Lily Cole, those kind of humongous models, and I was a teen. So of course I fell into the whole size zero thing. I was told to lose weight, even though I just started my puberty. So it was just very, very scary. So I don't think certain things developed as they should have done, and I had an eating disorder, so I just damaged my body inside. I just really recommend to get help. But yeah, it started on gradually, and then it became bulimic because I started being forced to eat by people around me. And at school, they started taking me. I couldn't eat my lunch alone. I had to be observed eating my food, and I was on these build-up drinks that make you gain weight like crazy. So I was absolutely frightened of gaining any weight because it means I had no control. So I would drink it, and then I'd bring it back up, and I would just say, oh, I just need to go to the bathroom. But it was just a very horrific thing to go through. Eventually I
And
learnt
when,
my lesson.
yeah, well, so when did that come to an end, and why did it come to an end? What happened in your
I
life?
passed
That's
out. I passed
wow.
out. I passed out one day. I was in school, and then I literally just passed out, and I was really sick, and I was sent home. And they said she needs to go to the doctor. And my father held me against my will and took me to the hospital. And at first, I was really upset because I was so in denial. I said, I don't have a problem. And when I got assessed by the mental health team in the A&E department, they were like, yeah, there's something definitely wrong. And they put me on a tube. I was there for 2 weeks. I was force fed by nurses. I couldn't have any contact with anyone who was thing. I was on these pro-ana sites, as in anorexic sites, because they were promoting how to be an anorexic, and I had to give that all up. It was the most horrific thing, but I really finally got the help because I got to the root of the problem. That's what really got me, because it wasn't really about losing weight. It was actually about my abuse. If I actually got the help from the abuse from the start, maybe I wouldn't have gone through this. This was like the contributing factor of what I've gone through. It was a cry for help. So I always believe that whatever you're going through, make sure you get to the root cause of the situation, because all these other things are contributing factors that are underlying.
How did you get to the root cause, though? Surely it wasn't your time in the hospital. Did you have some kind of therapy, or did you talk to someone, or were you just reflecting back on what happened in your early childhood, and something happened, like a light bulb, so to speak?
So I was 15 years old. I was in 1 year. I was in therapy for 1 year, and I saw a nutritionist, and they kind of I felt like, when someone's gone through a breakdown like that, they need to be babied back into life because they don't know how to get back into life. And so I was told, okay, so this is your meal plan. And she used to sit there with my meal plan. She goes, okay, so what can you manage? I said, I can't eat a full meal. She said, exactly, that's right. So what can you manage? Water. And she's like, okay, water, but what can you manage? Maybe a piece of fruit, maybe some nuts or, you know, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can manage some raisins or something. And it just started from there. And next week she goes, next week we'll add something to the raisins. And it was just, it was building tiny bricks and just being model. And she was checking on me. And then the school found out. So when I went back into school, I had a mentor that would take me outside the classes to do all my lessons separately from the rest of the class. So I was really babied back. I was kind of mothered and nurtured by the teachers. And as a kid, because I lost my mother very young, any female teacher I would just cling on to, because I was just like, I just want that mother figure so desperately. So that's how I got to the root cause, just building very, very slowly bricks. And also I was told that, you know, you're really beautiful. I said, I've always wanted to do beauty pageants, going to charity. And they said, have you ever thought of going into beauty pageants? Because you like to charity and you're very beautiful, they said. And I said, oh no, I couldn't possibly do that. I'm not pretty. I'm really ugly. I was told I was hideous. You know, I've always told that. So they said, no, you should go for it. So I seek solace in pageantry. And yeah, my first pageant I entered, I won. And that was Miss London. And out of 30 girls. And
how old were you when you were?
I was 16 years old, and it was the most amazing feeling ever. Like, to win my first beauty. I did not know what I was doing, but I just worked so hard. I put my heart and soul in it, prepared for 5 months. And winning out of those women, you know, when they answered me the questions, I don't know, I spoke from the heart. And I got emotional on stage, and I think that's what won the judges over. They saw the genuineness of me.
Because it's not just about having a wonderful look, which obviously you do have, but it's also about your story. It's also about your story and about the way you come across and how you say your story. I mean, do you ever mention about your story in pageants or not?
Oh yes,
Oh,
but
you do?
usually it's usually written interviews. So, you know, the magazine, you just type up your answers. They send you the questions, you type up your answers and send it back to them. So I find it quite hard to talk about it live, but I'm taking the courage to do it. Even though I might have a moment of weakness, like, no, I can't do this, and then I'm like, okay, no, snap out of it, you can do it. It's fine. You're a
Yeah.
professional. Don't cancel. I've never cancelled. I don't believe in cancelling.
Well, I'm so happy you didn't cancel, because I know there's a lot of people who are looking forward to hearing you tonight. And the ones who can't hear you, of course, they'll hear it on YouTube later, or on my Facebook page, or whatever platform it's on. So you're definitely giving a great message. And as I said, I'm so happy to have you here. So you win your first beauty pageant, right? And then you get the bug. It's like you want to do another one. Is that how it is? When was
So I
your
won
next one? Yeah.
my first beauty pageant. Well, I won my first beauty pageant, and I did a whole year. And because I did such an amazing year, they recrowned me as Miss London Eternal. So I had this Miss London Eternal amazing. And you can still do another pageant with that, but it was just like, eternally, we honour you through our company. So I went on. So they said, you need to go to the next one. You need to do this. You need to do that. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just started to do all the big ones. Miss Great Britain. I won the Miss Sponsor's Choice Great Britain. I also won Miss Surf Air. From the Miss Surf company, which is the top 5 biggest beauty pageants in the world. I did Miss International, and I went to Disney World, Florida, to compete, and I got Miss Congeniality International. So I was really excited about that. I came second runner-up for the overall, but I got the Congeniality, so I was very excited about that. After winning 3 crowns, I won the most charitable. I won most academic. So it was really exciting. And then now I'm doing the Miss Universe Great Britain.
And you're in the final, man. You're in the 2020 final. Backstage tickets. You get me?
Oh, I would love you to come. That'd be fantastic.
Oh,
It'd
I'd
be
love
so
to be
wonderful
there.
to have you there. Yeah,
Oh.
absolutely. The whole Lonely team would be such a wonderful experience. But yes, I had to go for an application form, and I filled that out. I thought, no, they probably won't. Probably won't hear back, because, you know, I don't think I'm good enough. And then I got invited to an interview. I was like, oh wow, I got shortlisted for an interview. And then I did the interview and I met the director, and she's absolutely lovely, such a wonderful lady. Really is all about female empowerment. I was like, yes, this is amazing. I just wanted to be there so much. And then I got the email of acceptance and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm a finalist. So it's just such a blessing. We're fundraising for a sisterhood charity, which helps stop acid attacks in India for women, and it helps them get back into education and workshops and things like that. And also we're helping women, the very first anti-poaching animal charity in Africa. And we're also helping the Lammas charity, which is to help homeless women in Wales. So it's all for a great cause. And right now I've raised about £500 so far. So I'm very excited about that.
That's fantastic. And one thing I've heard you say quite a few times already, that you never felt you're good enough. You don't think you're worthy enough. You don't think you're pretty enough or beautiful enough. Where do you think that comes from? Because you obviously are good enough, because you wouldn't have had so many opportunities and won, or been on the podium at the very least, so many opportunities and won most of them. Where do you think that comes from? Does that come from the childhood or something else, maybe?
Throughout my childhood, I always was brought down. I went through a lot of bullying and trauma and abuse. So I was always told from very young, and also with the modelling industry, when I was just a 10-year-old girl and I walked into the studio with the casting directors, and they would say, oh, her nose is too big, her teeth is crooked, oh, her eyes are too close together, or, you know, oh, she's got her spine is curved, so she got scoliosis. Like, they would just say things, and I would have rashes come up because of the stress and because I wasn't eating, and they'll just say the worst things. I was told so many times by makeup artists, oh, you're so pale, you really need a tan if you're going to make it in this industry. And I started to really hate my pure white skin. I hated it. I just felt so ugly, honestly. I really dealt with a lot of body issues. But recently, within the past 2 years, I've really gone to really accept myself and heal myself. I still have those days where I'm like, oh, I think every girl has those days where, oh, I have an ugly day, But, most of the time, I was always told from very young, you should never draw attention to yourself. You should always be humble, and you should always look out for others before yourself. So I had a very strict Christian upbringing with my family. So they said never do something that will bring attention to us, but I obviously did, because I did pageantry and I did modeling, which is like, it does bring attention to you. So I went against my family's thing. So they were like, oh my God, you can't do that, you got to be a humble and modest woman. But my father was my biggest supporter, so was my grandma, and my aunties as well, my cousins. So I've been very, very blessed. It's just some family members just didn't get it, really.
If I remember, thank you for that. If I remember from our first interview, when you were a guest on Saf Surgery,
Yes.
you mentioned the closeness of yourself and your grandmother, and
Yeah.
I was very touched to hear that, because and you were quite, you, I wouldn't say you were emotional, but it was gratitude. It was emotion. It was gratitude. You were showing emotional gratitude and love for your grandmother. Would you like to share that, your relationship with your grandmother, because she was like your mother, right?
Yes, she was. My grandma is my rock, my heart and my soul. Like, she's the one that makes me want to be here, because she has just developed me in such a way. Whereas, because she was brought up in the 1930s. She's 96 now. She's amazing.
Wow.
And she was a messenger in the war. She's a war hero. So at the age of 14, she was serving our country before she even became a woman. And, it's just, she was just running, and the shoes were melting off her feet because the bombs and the heat of the ground from the bombs and the fire. And she's just risking her life just to teleport messages backwards and forwards, because they would hire children because they won't seem as suspicious. So she went through all of that. It's absolutely incredible. And she was so strong and tough. And I think I got that from my grandma. I'm a very, very strong person. I'm very sensitive, but my grandma was the one that, if I really have to be strong, I would be very strong mentally. even wearing my heart on my sleeve, a lot of people mistake people who are very sensitive with their wearing their heart on the sleeve as quite soft and, you know, gullible and easy, but it's actually the opposite. Is that we're just so strong that we are confident enough to show our soft side. We're more confident, and that's what my grandma taught me. When I lost my mother and I got brought back in from foster care to my father, my grandma helped to raise me. She put food on the table. She taught me how to cook. She taught me how to knit. She taught me to be a woman. She really did, because I didn't have that guidance with my original mother. Even though I don't blame my mother at all, because I understand she had her reasons. Like, for years I did blame her, but now I'm just like, no, I still love her from a distance. She's still my biological mum. My grandma, she has been my rock, and she has taught me that. She taught me the British, the Lloyd's motto, which is, if you want anything done, you do it yourself. Make things happen. Don't wait, because that's the worst thing you could do. Your life, 10 years can go by and you still haven't completed your dreams.
And you certainly did do that. You certainly are doing that. And she must be very, very proud of you. As your dad must be very proud of you as well. I mean, do you have any
Yes.
connection or any communication with your birth mother at all?
Yes, so I've been estranged from my mother for let's say about 22 years. The last time I ever spoke to my mother was 5 years old, and I was a really young girl. Oh, and I would text her occasionally, but we managed to start texting backwards and forth now. We don't really have a proper relationship, but we've made amends. And I wrote her and I said, look, I'm not angry what you did. I understand you had your reasons, and it's the way it comes across to me. It sounds like you had postnatal depression based upon the symptoms. And she goes, and then she kind of just broke down and was like, yeah, I think I did have that. And I think for the first time, just her acknowledging the truth made me feel so much better, and she felt so much better because we kind of cleared the air. But with me and my mother, I think she had her reasons, and I don't want to be angry to her. She did bring me life, which is the greatest gift and you can give to a child, giving them life to be able to experience such wonderful things, you know. So.
Oh, it's so beautiful the way you put things. I mean, it's so easy for one to be resentful against what's happened
Yes.
in a life that you've experienced, but instead of
Yes.
it holding you back, as you rightly said, you are a survivor, and
Yes.
what you do today is you help other survivors become leaders, just like you have. You're not a boss, you're a leader, and you lead by example. Can you tell me, or tell us some of the work that you're involved with? I know you mentioned a bit about the charities with the acid attacks, and that's something that I definitely want to get involved with. Being of Indian heritage, I hear and see a lot of it, and it breaks me to see what goes on. And it's happening in England now as well, which is frightening. But
Yes.
could you tell us a bit about the charities that you're involved with, the survivors that you help to become leaders like yourself?
So I've been involved with numerous charities for years and years. I've been like fundraising for Salvation Army, Teenage Cancer Trust, ME Association I was a member of. I've just been doing so many over the years, to name a few. Cats Protection, dogs, all sorts. But I've also done a tour last year in 2019 in Indonesia to help ban the use of single-use plastics and packaging that's affecting our oceans worldwide, because one of the main sources of plastic pollution is Jakarta in Indonesia. So I wanted to go straight to the root of the problem and help save the marine life. So I did a 7-day tour to help convince ministers to try and clean up their oceans, to help them use single-use plastic instead of using plastic. Use bamboo, because they've got so much access to bamboo and leaves and, you know, just other alternative measures. So I was doing that for over a year, and my campaign has paid off, because last week I got some news that Bali is now a plastic-free zone. And that's because of my thing. So I'm one of the first ladies in Indonesia to receive a government coat of arms by the
Oh my
Indonesian
word!
government. One of the first British ladies. And so yeah, but I got that before anything's happened, because I was campaigning so hard with the GEDE organization, and with the minister, and meeting with so many political characters. I even met the king of Carapitan Palace and his princesses, his 5 princess daughters, and they made me a dress. So they were just, it was just wonderful. People were saying to me, oh, how can you go over to Indonesia and change something like so huge as that? They're not going to listen to a pageant girl. And I was like, I don't like to be underestimated. So I was like, watch me. And they said, oh, you need to look like a man and be very, very vicious, and, really be aggressive about it in order to get things sorted. And I said, no, I'm going to wear the most pinkest floral dress ever. And I'm going to make sure that I'm going to bring across my femininity, because I think how empowering is femininity. We really underestimate femininity. So I went to every meeting dressed as like a very feminine person, pink clothes, all sorts. And last week I got the news that Bali is now officially plastic free. So that's incredible. And I was working with the disabled charity in Indonesia as well. I help a disabled community. We donated money for their wheelchairs and their first aid, because some of them were using cushions because they have no limbs. They were using cushions to move along with their hands. So we helped to get them first aid kit, and to help them for food and rice and all the things they needed. But presently on 2020, my main platform, my private platform, is Lonely as a chairperson, helping the Galaxy of Stars project, helping young women, and helping survivors turn into leaders, to help them their business strategy to grow, to become entrepreneurs in their own right, to help them have a startup, because I think I needed that. So I want to be able to provide that service for them, and also be a mentor to them. And another thing is with the A Sisterhood charity, which is made up of 4 of the charities, which is the homelessness and the acid attack victims. So it's a very small group of acid attack victims, but they help in India. And we've done a big group fundraising recently. We've raised £22,000, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Fantastic.
And yes, thank you. And we're doing our personal, all the contestants are fundraising individually as well on top. And whoever wins the Miss Universe Great Britain, they're going to use that money to for the Miss Universe Great Britain to give that money directly to the acid attack victims in India. And these women have been affected by the acid attacks from like their husbands, from people, from family, because maybe they're shamed. And it's very, very sad. But this money helps them to gain the confidence back, go into workshops, get the help that they need, go into education, just help them help them get jobs, just help them set up. They do henna, when they do like henna for them and stuff. And I just think meeting some of them on the group chats has just been absolutely phenomenal. These women, I think you think we have problems, but you meet these women, they're just still smiling and they've disfigured, and it's just so incredible. I just think their beauty they are the true beauties of the world, because their heart is in such an amazing place and they're so strong. Those to me are some of the greatest survivors that ever lived.
Wow, you're so incredible and so inspiring. I've got this heavy feeling, and I've got a bit teary in my eye, because you're doing such wonderful work, and a lot of work you're doing is very close to my heart as well. And it's so happy to hear someone like you doing this, and it's just wonderful. How do you get through the language barrier, or do most of them speak English? Because obviously a lot of Indians don't speak English, especially the Indians who are from the villages. And what I find, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of victims from acid attacks are from uneducated families, or the person doing it is uneducated because whatever, I know the reasons why it happens, but so they may not be able to speak the language. How do you get through the language barrier? Not just with India, but all the countries that you're with. I know most speak English, but the ones that don't.
So when I was in Indonesia, helping promote to abolish single-use plastics for packaging and for marine life, I had a translator and a confidant, and I had security team that were able to talk for me. But But the thing is that a lot of them actually did speak English really well. Even the disabled charity I worked for, which was a group of disabled people that lived amongst each other, they spoke very good English and they were very educated. Another thing was with the acid attacks who I spoke to, some of them did speak English and some of them were speaking on the behalf of the victims. So they have the head of the charity who does speak English. So we were able to converse with them there. And also we needed a question and answer. We always go through our director because it has to go through proper protocol. We can't just directly go to the acid attack victims because they're vulnerable people. We're there to make sure there's a certain protocol in place for that. So yeah, the leader, the main director of the charity does speak English and speaks on behalf of them usually. And some of them have certain conversations sometimes in the group, in the Zoom meetings. They do speak and everything. And yeah, we make it work basically.
I mean, it's just having someone there who cares, and someone there who's willing to help. And I think that's everything to some people, because the trauma that they've been through is it's just so it's so sad. It really is so sad, and you do a great job. So you're involved with all these charities.
Yes.
We've got a few minutes left. I want to talk about Ladies of All Nations,
Yes.
because I know you've mentioned it, but you play a massive part with this wonderful um, communion of people who do wonderful work. Tell the audience about this, because I'm involved with it as well. Even though it's Ladies of All Nations, I'm proud, because apart from my young little boy, the two most important people in my life are female, right? And through the life that I've had, and through the life that they've endured because of myself, they are survivors themselves, and to put up with me for all these years, they're wonderful women, and they've supported me in my addiction, in my recovery, in my mental health, and without them, I wouldn't be here today. So I have a lot of time for women causes, whether it be acid attacks, whether it be domestic violence, whether it be FGM, um, whatever. Because I don't think enough men speak out against what happens to women globally, and I think that's important. I think we should all speak up. So tell us about Loney.
So, Ladies of All Nations organisation is basically exactly what the title means. It's ladies from all nations coming together as survivors and becoming leaders in their own right. And there is an award ceremony. It's made with an award ceremony that awards women who've gone through hardships and have overcome them, and we call them beautiful survivors, because a survivor is beautiful, inside and outside. If overcoming something makes you a beautiful person inside and out. So we always honor those, because many people go through these hardships and no one gives them a pat on the back and goes, you know what, that was really hard. You've done incredible. Nobody does that to a lot of them. Lots of them just go about their days and carry on with their work and remain ignorant to what we kind of stop time and go, no, you deserve recognition for what you've gone through, and you deserve to shine just as much as anyone else. We also, every woman that's who's part of Lonely has been affected with something. They've all gone through a hardship, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's acid attacks, whether it's a car crash, whether it's plane crash, whether it's bullying, sexual abuse, rape. It's everything. So we bring this amazing community. I was with it from the very start, when it was just a tiny room, and Dr. Caroline Makaka, who's the owner, she was just giving out awards, and it was a tiny room, and not many people believed in her and judged her. And I saw her and I was like, you know what, I believe in you, I want to be there for you. And we had a mutual friend in common, which was Sonny, and she's Sonny Mega. She's a makeup artist, and she immediately invited me and said, you know, let's all come together. And I knew Iman Bey from working with the Disabled Foundation as ambassador. So we all kind of just came together and said, let's just build something substantial. Let's make a support group for women from all over the world, and let's just grow it. And from the past couple of years, it's just really, really grown, and it's become a really, really amazing charity. And Caroline, we started to do these amazing webinar talks where there'll be a topic every week, and you can join, you can meet the host, and anyone can join, any woman. And we also set up the crisis team, which is with 33 board members. Every person is an expert of some sort, whether it's divorce or whether it's ending violence, domestic violence, or child abuse, or mental health or wellness, or dyslexia. It just depends on what things are, and basically you can reach out to those. So we are basically just a group of women all over the world coming together to support women, building women up, empowering them, and turning leaders into survivors. I came up with the term leaders into survivors, and I said this is my movement, but I want to incorporate that in with Ladies of All Nations as a chairperson. But because I've been affected by my childhood with child abuse, I wanted to help younger children. That's when we launched the Galaxy of Stars project, where we honour every year a Galaxy of Stars awardee, or a child who's making amazing changes, doing substantial things for the world, and is overcoming hardships. So that's what I've been doing. And yes, it's very fantastic. We've got events twice a year, award ceremonies, and we have Christmas events. And yeah, you can nominate people, you can nominate your child, you can nominate anybody you know has gone through a hardship, and you can come. And it's basically just a strong community of women. Even men are part of Lonely, so like yourself. So
there you go. There you go.
As long as you, all men are welcome as well. As long as you believe in female empowerment, you're in. So that's what we
Most
are.
Most definitely. And I hope we get the chance to come. Well, I hope to have an event this year. Obviously, with all the lockdown and the COVID going on, so fingers crossed. At least by Christmas, hopefully, because I would love to attend my first event and be around some remarkable people like yourself. But there's a bigger event for yourself coming up, isn't there? The
Yes,
finalist, the final. Yeah, I mean, is that going to be a live event now, or what's the situation with that?
So I was actually next week was meant to be the finals, but of course it got postponed to further notice. We don't have a new dating yet due to the government guidelines we must adhere to to ensure people's safety. We cannot be in. Usually we're in a theatre room with a stage and everything with people, and of course it's just too risky with we having to be next to each other. So we don't know what's going to happen yet, but it is going ahead. It's just being postponed to a later date. And yes, we're just very, very excited. But I feel kind of blessed because it means we have more time to reflect on our journey, and we're the first finalists in the Miss Universe Great Britain history to actually have an extended time as being a finalist and promoting our causes. We get more time to do our things and prepare. So it's actually a blessing in disguise, really. And it means I have more time for fundraising as well, which is great.
Well, fingers crossed with this, because for me and for many people out there, you truly are a worthy winner, and hopefully, fingers crossed that you get this title, because you deserve it. Any last words, Rosemary, for our audience out there? Anything you want to say to empower or to inspire people, because you've inspired me so much.
I always say this, and I say it repetitively, but I'm going to keep saying it, and I'm going to take the saying to my grave. And that is, when you see your dreams staring at you, look back at them and know you are enough to achieve them. And make sure when you come into a room, make sure you acknowledge the cleaners, the tabletop workers, the sweepers. Acknowledge those people first before the hierarchy, because they are the ones that really need to feel like an integrated member of society. Make people feel included. And I'm just going to leave it as that.
Thank you very much, Rosemary, for being on my show again.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, always. And I'm so happy that we got you on tonight, because we were touch and go at the beginning, and I'm so happy. And I hope you feel happy that you've actually done this tonight, because you have definitely given a massive massive message of hope. So thank you very much. Thank you, guys. This has been inspirational people, inspirational stories. I'm Saf Buxy. This has been Saf Surgery. And next week, check who we got out next week, Rosemary. You might want to tune in next week. Next week we have a Zulu princess who's now one of the most successful and known rappers, music artists from South Africa. Her name is Toya DeLazy. Google her. She is her music is not. It's different. It's a bit of Zulu flex, bit of rap, and she another beautiful soul. Who is definitely an inspirational person, especially she's gone through a few things. So she's our guest next week, Toya DeLazy, the South African Zulu princess, who is now an accomplished South African rapper. So that'll be here next week. So guys, until then, have a great week. Stay safe, and I shall see you next week. Thank you.
Are your relationships driving you crazy? Are you experiencing rough challenges with family? Miscommunication with your friends? Upsets with the people you work with? What about your romantic love? Is the tension too much? Are you single and missing love? Are you feeling lonely and wanting understanding? Are there threats to break up? Is there too much pain? Does any of this sound familiar? There is hope. There are solutions. There are simple and effective communication tools. Experience compassionate connections. Bring happiness back to the family. Don't suffer any longer. Learn simple tools that work to transform relationships. We are happiest when our relationships are thriving. We've helped thousands of individuals, couples, and families back into harmony. Learn more at lovecoachacademy.com.
See you next week.